Wow. Here at Game Show Forensics, we like to do an occasional hot take. And today, I'd like to explore some of the musings of a one Charles Chuck Woolery, made on the heels of Pat Sajak's retirement from Wheel of Fortune. It is hilarious and crazy. But first, I would like to indulge in my newest cocktail. I'm not sure if you call this a cocktail. It's more of an enhanced drink. And basically, it is a Pezcal. And what we do is we have a wee bit shot. And then we add both strawberry and cherry Pez to give it a wee bit of sweet. And thus, we can then call it Pezcal. Now, first, to Pat Sajak, the illustrious career with 41 years on Wheel of Fortune, longer than that, doing weather shenanigans, and to Chuck Woolery, a host that defied gravity. Had excellent presentation chops. Looked the part. And was kind of dealt a shitty hand, if you will, in the world of later game shows. But nonetheless, in my view, a legend still. To Chuck and Pat, the happy couple. Right. Let's get to Chuck's interview on Fox and Friends. Although it's one friend, Steve Doocy. And Steve gives... I'm not a Fox and Friends. I'm not a friend of Fox and Friends, necessarily. I gotta say, Steve Doocy, as unlikable as I feel he probably is, has a masterclass in in calling the elephant in the room out in a very, very grandiose way. So let's walk through it, shall we? And we will analyze it as a forensic scientist of game shows would. Okay, here we go. Proceed.
Handsome young man. Spent 6 years in front of the puzzle board as the show's very first host. And Chuck Woolery joins us right now live from Texas. Chuck, good morning to you.
Good morning, Steve. How are you? I've been on that stage. I was on there 7 years, and then Pat came along, and here he is leaving now. Of course, the point is, a lot of people ask me, why is Pat leaving? Why would he do that?
Do they? People coming up to you, Chuck, and getting your take on why Pat's leaving. I mean, he's made it clear. He's done the show for 41 years. He wants to do something else. I mean, but okay. Go on.
years. I don't know Pat, by the way. We've never met.
Really?
Oh yeah, Steve. Really? I mean, that's hard to believe. You mean Wheel of Fortune never had any kind of like a reunion of staff? These are two of the more vocal right-wing game show hosts that both had successful shows at the same time. So here you have these two guys in Hollywood that are the rare breed of kind of vocal Republicans, and they've never been in the same room before. Together. They've never been in the same little soirees and parties, and I mean ever. And they've never had any kind of like weird bullshit award show type of deal. That's crazy. I mean, suppose Chuck was nominated for lots of daytime Emmys, but I mean, just think of all the events and all the shit going on in Hollywood, and the two of them in 40 plus years have never met. They're both the hosts of the same fucking show. Okay, all right, it's weird, but okay.
If you're making $15 to $25 million a year, which is what he does. Yes, between 15 and 25 million. So when you're making that kind of money, it's hard to place it when you do it year after year after year.
How the fuck would you know? But, well, he's right. Imagine the struggle. Imagine the strife. Poor guy. 10 million, 15 million a year. What do you do with it? I mean, that is a problem. That is a no one envies Pat Sajak in his position. That's a tough gig. 15 million a year. I mean, I don't. He's right. I just don't know. I don't know what you'd do.
All that money, so you just finally get tired of it and retire. That's my spin.
I'm tired of this.
Time to spend it. Chuck,
now time to count it all.
Chuck, here's the thing. He's been in that chair for like 40 years. You blew it. Merv Griffin fired you. You could have had that job for 40 years.
Holy shit. Okay. He's absolutely right, and that is hilarious. Because who has ever said that to his face? I mean, for context, Chuck Woolery was the original host of Wheel of Fortune. 7 years. And he got in a salary dispute with Merv Griffin. He wanted more money. This happens all the time. Merv said, fuck you. I think it did get ugly. I think it wasn't a cordial taking a piece of paper and sliding on the desk. I think it was really like, no, I demand more. And, look, it was a very popular game show, and I think maybe Chuck deserved what he was asking for. If I remember correctly, I think it was over like 30 grand or some small bump. And Merv just said no. And there was some kind of incident where Chuck and Susan Stafford, the letter turner at the time, locked themselves in the dressing room and refused to come out before taping until they had some kind of resolution. It wasn't pretty. And I think eventually Merv just said, you know what? I don't like your diva attitude, and I can replace you like that. And I think it just seemed like Merv just wanted to prove a point, really. I mean, I think Chuck was popular. I think people did like him on that show. I mean, it obviously didn't kill the show by taking him off of there. And Merv was right. I mean, eventually Pat did become the face of Wheel of Fortune, but it was a dick move. I just knowing Chuck as I do, just watching him in other shows over the years, I can see that he had the proclivity to have somewhat of an attitude. First, I mean, he's made all sorts of just weird, passive-aggressive
faces and mumbles on air, specifically on Scrabble, which is a show he hosted for quite a while in the 80s. And there's lots of evidence of him just being a general dick. It's funny, but he does a lot of things that other hosts I would never do that I've seen. Just a smart ass on camera, and that made it to air. A lot of these incidents. So I can see during this Chuck versus Merv battle that there was likely some shit, and Merv said, "You know what? I got another guy. Wait till you see him." And he found dorky little weatherman Pat Sajak, who ended up really running that show. But in the beginning, he was kind of like an awkward little pipsqueak versus Chuck. Chuck has the manly alpha male. He had the 70s like cool guy hair. I think he was a budding country singer, so he had like this panache of, I am this 70s sex symbol. So side by side, Chuck versus Pat. I would pick Chuck just for the gravitas. Chuck had lots of gravitas. Pat is not a person that comes to mind at all when you say the word gravitas. Never. So, nonetheless, I do find this very funny that, going back to Mr. Ducey, and him just straight up saying to Chuck, "You know what? You fucked this up." And he did. He walked away. He said no to Merv Griffin's counter, maybe, or refusal, but he quit the show. Merv Griffin got Pat Sajak. That show went into stratospheric levels of ratings, of just going down in the history books. It is one of the all-time. Well, I mean, we have to acknowledge it. Probably is the greatest American game show ever, as far as ratings and just its legacy. Right? I mean, say what you will about the actual gameplay and the hokey antics of the show itself, but we cannot deny its legendary place in history. Right? So yes, had Chuck had stayed, he would have undoubtedly made several $1 million a year. And I don't think he ever quite got to that level of salary from his other shows. I don't think. But certainly, I mean, here's Pat Sajak making, like he's saying, 8 figures for several years. Pat Sajak should be near Oprah level, like crazy rich, I imagine. And it's funny. Chuck is not really hiding that here. He's a little bitter. I certainly would be. I don't fault him for that, but I mean, we're trying to pretend that we're cool and no hard feelings. I mean, he clearly is bitter, and Steve Ducey's sitting here rubbing that shit in his face. It's great television. It's the only time ever that I think Fox and Friends could be said to have been good television. Okay.
Steve, that's very reassuring. Thank you. It's the difference between my Cherokee 150 or 172 and his Gulfstream. So go figure. There's no hard feelings. I had a great career. I had 5 or 6 shows that I did. I just kept going from show to show to show, and I had a lot of different experiences and a lot of fun. So it's all about having fun.
Well,
Okay, so he's bitter. Lest we compare the juggernaut that is Wheel of Fortune to what? Lingo, greed. The show about the kitty cats. So I appreciate him saying that it's all good, no hard feelings, but that is all preceded by preposterous, jealous outrage. Carry on.
You are a legend. You are an icon in the world of
Well, that's kind of you to say that.
of game shows and stuff like that. And that's why Fox Nation asked, "Hey Chuck, would you host an 80s quiz show on Fox Nation?" And what'd you say to that?
I said yes, and the reason I said it because the last time I was behind.
Shit. So this is actually really sad. I think it's sad because the guy is 80. Is that right? And here they are putting him on this. Just show you what
22 years ago. I haven't done a game show for 22 years, so I thought.
Excuse me, if I'm not mistaken, I was the grand champion of your Lingo Tournament of Champions in 2007, which was only 17 years ago, Chuck. So, did we forget? Do we not remember the epic gameplay put forth by yours truly, Chuck? We had a tender moment. You signed my encyclopedia of game shows, fucker. Go on.
Stand up and see if I have any chops left.
Well, you still have those chops, and we've got a clip featuring Janice Dean and Will Kane. Watch this.
Oh, wait.
Okay, before this fight breaks out, let's find out where everybody stands,
Fuck
okay?
is this?
Chuck, we wagered all of it.
Really?
23. All we've got.
Yep.
Got a lot.
Needed to.
And your answer?
Jeopardy.
Wrong.
See, they're not showing us what the question was. I wonder if it was name the game show that Chuck Woolery had hosted for 7 years. Wouldn't that be hilarious if his answer was Jeopardy? You know, Chuck does not like being misremembered in his career. And I know it's happened several times. Even on Scrabble, he just says straight up, there was a lot of subtle, passive-aggressive bitterness, specifically towards Wheel of Fortune, Pat, and by association, Vanna. And Merv Griffin. Oh, it's for another episode of Game Show Forensics, but remind me to tell you about the time that Chuck had to give away a trip to an island owned by Merv Griffin and was forced to talk about it for like 20 episodes. It's hilarious.
Paradise Island in the Bahamas. That's Merv's joint. I think he owns the whole thing now, or is trying to dump it, one of the two. But today, the jackpot in our bonus.
All right. So we see this piece of garbage that very much looks like a high school theater group was told to make what they think is the set of an 80s TV show, I guess. Or AI was asked, like, give us the background of a 1986 hot neon discotheque.
The whole thing just to see Will Kane with a mullet for an hour.
By the way, Will Kane's a great. Everybody there. I came home and my wife watches Fox with me, and she said,
Does
"Well,
she?
what was it like?" And I said, the nicest group of people, and I mean this sincerely. I don't have to say this.
Wait, so you came home, and so this is a recap of that conversation. You came home, and then your wife was like, "Hey, how was it?" And you're like, "You know what? It was the nicest group of people." That's how that went down. That's how we get to hear how nice they were is you are letting us in on your marital discussions of how was basically the Chuck Woolery equivalency of how was your day, honey, and that is okay. Just make
Group of people that I've ever met who just seemed to
Ever.
really like each other. They had a lot of fun. Janice Dean and Shannon Bream were just out of. They're together. There's something else.
fuck is
They
the
really
show?
are. It's like a
What are we-
college party. I mean, it's just amazing. But
Uh-huh.
anyway, everybody had a great time.
Great.
I had a good
Oh,
time.
and where are
It
you?
was nice to meet Charles Payne and everybody else.
Yep.
I mean, it was
Okay,
just
okay. So this is a game show. They're saying that they have tapped Chuck Woolery to host. We saw him for a second. Where the fuck is he now? This is like some kind of opening credits scene here, and we're just seeing like a bunch of weirdos with like props and wigs. And I mean, okay, where's Chuck? Is he in the show?
It
so
was. And,
if that's the answer to success, I'll take it.
and you know what? Folks can start watching that.
That's really sad. That's not the answer to success, Chuck. This is not a representation of success. Success is Pat Sajak fucking kicking back in a hammock on Merv Griffin Island with a pina colada and two whores by his side, and signals to Garcon for more scampi and lobster. That's success. That's success. This is disgrace. Sorry, Chuck. I mean, it's good to see that you're getting TV work again, but not this. I don't even know what the.
Chuck Woolery, a real pleasure
Okay,
having
look.
you.
Wait a second. So you get the little blonde bitches, those typical Fox News, blonde white ladies. You got two white dudes, some Melania-looking lady, black fellow. They're all in these like poor man's battle stars triangles. Where's Chuck? What? This is like the title card to the show. Where? I don't see Chuck anywhere. What did he do? A cameo? Well, okay. Maybe there's more.
And on Fox, that
No, that's it. I mean, it's not favorable. I mean, look, it's very nice of them to give Chuck a chance to be back on television. It's nice to see that he still has the will to want to host things. He looked okay. He sounded okay. I don't know what the hell that thing was. I mean, it didn't look like he was the host of it. It looked like he just kind of did a cameo on it. But nonetheless, the main takeaway to me was that Chuck had never met Pat, and he didn't quite shit on Pat here, but he didn't really. It didn't sound like Chuck was really happy for him, and there's not really a reason for Chuck to be mad at Pat. I mean, Pat was brought in and took over a very popular game show. Who wouldn't take that gig? I don't think that, and Pat was very gracious about replacing Chuck on his first episode. Take a look.
Morning, everyone. Welcome to Wheel of Fortune. Please do not adjust your sets at home. Chuck Woolery has not shrunk. A lot of people are playing with a vertical hold right now. As Jack mentioned, my name is Pat Sajak, and I've been fortunate enough to wander onto the set of a very successful program, has been for a long time. One of the big reasons for that success, of course, was Chuck Woolery. Most of you know by now, Chuck has decided to leave the show to concentrate on other areas in his career. He's a very talented actor and singer and songwriter. So I want to take a minute, and I know everyone in the studio does, and all his fans around the country, to wish Chuck nothing but the best for future success and happiness. Chuck, this is for you.
It's pretty good, by the way. So, there's a very gracious handoff. And I don't think Pat, as much of a smartass as he thought he was, he always thought he was so funny. He never really said shit about Chuck in any, even in like a passive aggressive, jokey kind of dick way that Chuck would absolutely do if the roles were reversed. But it's just, it's a bittersweet event. It's nice to see everybody hail Pat's career as it goes off into the sunset. But at the same time, you do kind of reflect on Chuck's career, and I, as a fan, a huge fan of one of his main game shows, Scrabble, which was on throughout most of the 80s and 93. I loved that show. I grew up with it, and so as a child, I had always thought Chuck was the shit. I just loved that show, and I didn't really quite catch his passive aggressiveness and his bitterness and his kind of dickish ways until later on, as an adult. I've rewatched most of these episodes of Scrabble, and I now see that he's a total asshole. It's funny, but he's much more of an asshole than a lot of hosts I've seen. And there's no question he's bitter. He's bitter till the end. God bless him. I mean, he fought Merv Griffin, and while he did not win at all, he got to hold his head up high. I mean, Scrabble was good. There was a good run of that show. I don't know how much he made, but it was a fun show, and it was a part of a lot of people, game show fans specifically. It was a part of a lot of our childhoods, and I liked both word games, but if I had a gun to my head, I would watch 1,000 Scrabble episodes over one Wheel of Fortune episode. The Scrabble was superior to me. They're both cheesy in their own 80s game show way, but there was something about Scrabble that really just made it quintessential cheesy 80s game show to me. That was just, it was great. I loved it. Chuck hosted it beautifully, and it was exciting. It was a fun show to watch. So, at any rate, that is my observation of Chuck's hot take on Pat's retirement. Thank you for watching, and join us again when we do more deep dives in game show forensics.